Hello everyone. The images used in our slide deck are for educational purposes only. We respect the intellectual property rights of the original creators and the owners of these images. If you are the owners of any of the images used in the deck and have any concerns or issues, please contact us at sathi@iitk.ac.in and we shall remove the images. Hello, my dear students. I hope you all are doing well and welcome back to the lecture series where which we are discussing a very important and uh, very lovely topic of syllogism in our this particular lecture series. इस पर्टिकुलर लेक्चर सीरीज में हम लोग बात कर रहे हैं सिलोगिज्म का जो एक बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट डिस्कशन रहता है व्हेन एवर वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट लॉजिकल रीजनिंग पोर्शन ऑफ एनी ऑफ द कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्जामिनेशन ना ही सिर्फ क्लैट जो कि कॉमन लॉ एंट्रेंस टेस्ट है उसके अलावा भी और विभिन्न एग्जाम जैसे कि एसएससी एंड बैंक एग्जाम्स जितने भी होते हैं और आपके जो नेट के एग्जाम्स होते हैं और भी जो स्टेट्यूटरी कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्जाम होते हैं वहां पे आप पाएंगे सिलोगिज्म को एज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट एंड वेरी स्कोरिंग पार्ट ऑफ लॉजिकल रीजनिंग विदाउट more investment of time when if you are able to score good amount of marks and just by small practice just by ensuring that you are taking 100% of your efforts and practicing these questions of syllogism you can ensure कि आपका जो पोर्शन है सिलोगिज्म का कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्जामिनेशन का वो तो 100% तैयार हो चुका है दैट इज 100% रेडी बिकॉज व्हेन यू टॉक अबाउट सिलोगिज्म में प्रॉब्लम कहाँ आती है अक्सर स्टूडेंट्स को वो प्रॉब्लम आती है क्वेश्चन को समझने में वेरी फर्स्ट प्रॉब्लम दैट स्टूडेंट्स फेस is in regards to understanding what the question is saying and second is sticking to the question that has been given often what we have observed through our past experiences is that students are not able to concentrate over the question that is given rather they start assuming by comparing it to the real world scenarios and often they do mistakes while they are drawing the Venn diagram or they are inferring the conclusions that has been provided in the question. So in our this particular lecture series, as you already know, my dear students, we have tried to encompass all the important aspects of syllogism. What exactly is syllogism that we have already discussed? It is something which helps us to figure out the logical explanation, which is going to provide us the inference or the conclusion. That what exactly can be the logical inference between the relation between the statement and the conclusion of any of the syllogism that has been provided as a question. That is something that we need to figure out. So in this particular lecture also, again, we will be continuing with the same set of questions that has been there. And after the completion of this particular question series, we will be coming to the last portion of this lecture series of syllogism, where which we will be quickly revising each and everything that we have studied so far, so that all the students whomsoever have been continuously been with us in touch with us and who are practicing continuously after watching these videos are actually 100% confident that yes they have prepared uh, well for syllogism portion of their competitive examination and then the only thing that has to be done from their side is to revise and to practice by taking into consideration the different areas from which they can get the syllogism questions. There are n number of reference books from where you can practice syllogism. There are books like Agarwal, R.S. Agarwal and other competitive examinations book written by different authors. You can find it in your nearby local store. Just ask them to provide you with a sample of a reference book for any of the competitive examination in which for which you are preparing, and in that particular book itself you will find a part or portion where the syllogism will be mentioned, and you can use that book as a reference point and you can start practicing by just keeping into mind all the rules and regulations that we have discussed in our this particular lecture series, and just based on that particular um, rules and obviously the types of syllogism you can solve every question which is related to syllogism no matter what which book it is, which competitive examination it is, because all the aspects of syllogism has already been completed and dealt with in this particular lecture series. So again, my dear students, welcome back to the practice sessions of this particular syllogism. और आपके सामने जो क्वेश्चन है, we will be again continuing to solve this particular question so that you people are much more conversant with the type of question that will be put up in front of you. And that is why the whole object of this lecture series is to ensure that all the students who are watching this video should be accustomed with the syllogism. And for that, practice is very important. As you all know, my dear student, that practice makes a man perfect. So in the same manner, practicing syllogism again and again is something which you are going to get a lot of confidence. And after that, you will by yourself claim that I am ready and I can solve any question which is related to syllogism. So my dear student, the first question for today's lecture is right now in front of you. Again, the same philosophy and the same phenomena we are going to follow. The first thing is you are going to draw the Venn diagram representing the different subjects and the predicates. One circle is just going to represent the bats. Another is going to represent balls. Another circle is going to represent wickets. And the last one is going to represent stumps. Now, the question is right now in front of you. I am giving you 10 seconds. And please make sure that the statement that has been provided, even if it seems to be at variance from the commonly known facts, then also you have to decide that the conclusion logically follows from the three statements disregarding the commonly known facts. So you don't have to assume that, sir, this is not possible that bats cannot be balls, but rather you have to assume, you have to accept this fact that yes, bats are balls. And then based on the statement, you have to derive the conclusion whether these particular things are possible or not. First question, 10 seconds. Your time starts now, my dear students. Kindly draw the Venn diagram for these particular three statements. All bats are balls, some balls are bats, some balls are wickets, and no wicket is stumps. My dear students, I suppose you have drawn the Venn diagram for the same. Let's try to analyze the conclusion. And again, I would like to recall you that the solutions that will be provided here, they might be true, they might not be true. The reason for that is we have inculcated this type of solutions because what happens is that whenever we are providing solutions, the students are directly skipping to the solution portion in order to get the answer, and they are not able to understand that as to why is it so that this particular circle has been drawn in such a manner and this is not drawn in such a manner. So in order to ensure that the students are also working and they're also drawing the Venn diagrams by themselves and then analyzing, we have intentionally put some answers which are right, some answers which are wrong. So you can by yourself guess by drawing the diagrams that if both the diagrams are resonating and if they are matching, then maybe both the answers are right. If your answer is contradicting to the answer that has been provided in front of you that in the screen, then you have to analyze which answer is correct. And after that only we will move towards the conclusion that what exactly should be the conclusion that is following. So again, my dear students, let's continue and let's try to figure out the first question. The first statement says all bats are balls. Again, you can see this portion is outside the circle of balls, meaning which this particular circle, this particular Venn diagram is representing that there are some balls, there are some bats which are not balls. But according to the statement, this is not true. It is saying that this suggests that bats is entirely contained within the set balls. So bat should be entirely contained within the set balls. So the correct representation of this particular Venn diagram would have been that this is a circle which is going to represent bats. And then there is another circle which is going to represent balls. Okay, the bats and the balls. And then there is one statement which is saying that some balls are wickets. Some balls are wickets, meaning which there is an overlap between the circle which is going to represent balls and the circle which is going to represent wickets. And the third statement, what we figure out is that no wicket is a stump. No wicket is a stump. So this particular relation will be drawn in such a manner that there should be quite a difference or quite a gap between the circle that is going to represent wicket and the circle which is going to represent stump. तो दोनों के बीच में थोड़ा सा गैप होना चाहिए. पहला स्टेटमेंट कह रहा है all bats are balls. तो बैट्स को हमने सर्किल के अंदर बना दिया, जो कि बॉल का बड़ा सर्किल और बैट का छोटा सर्किल है, जो रिप्रेजेंट कर रहा है कि ऑल बैट्स आर बॉल्स एंड some balls are wickets, some of the balls are wickets also, and then there is no wicket which is stump. So this will be the correct representation of the Venn diagram for question number 40. Now let's try to figure out the conclusion. What conclusion is this conveying? Some stumps are not balls, some stumps are not balls, some stumps are not balls. Okay, some stumps are not balls. The answer for this particular question follows as some stumps are not balls. Can we come to this particular decision that some stumps are not balls? Is there any direct inference between stumps and balls, being stumps being the subject and balls being the predicate? Is there any relation which we can carry from the statement that some stumps are not balls? There is no direct relation, my dear students, as I've already informed to you, that there is no direct relation between stumps and balls. If you can see, there could have been some relation if there would have been some inference, some relation, but there cannot be any relation that we can figure out from this statement. And some bats are not stumps. Some bats are not stumps. Some bats are not stumps. Whether we can figure out this particular portion from this particular phenomena, we can see through it that there are balls which has direct relation with wickets, okay, and then there is no wicket which is stump. There is no wickets which is stump. So we can say to this point that some bats are not stumps, some bats are not stumps. This can be a possibility because the subject here is bats, and there is a direct inference between balls and wickets. And when we talk about stumps and wickets, there is a direct relation where which it is saying that the wickets is not at all related to stumps. There is no wicket which is stumps. So what we can assume from the statement is conclusion 1, which is saying that no stumps, because since there is no relation between stumps and balls, there is no relation between stumps and balls. You cannot say there is a relation. There could have been a possibility that this diagram would have been like this also. Can't we draw this diagram like this, where which the stump would have been represented? So taking that thing into consideration, we cannot assume unless the subject and the predicate clearly showcases that yes, the stumps and the balls are somewhere related. That's why, considering the first point, some stumps are not balls, because stumps is here the predicate. Here in all the statements, do you figure out that is there any relation between predicate that has been provided earlier? No. So some stumps are not balls. There is no direct inference that we can take. But when we talk about some bats are not stumps, some bats are not stumps. So if we talk about balls, okay, all bats are balls that we can show. And then there are some balls which are wickets, okay, and then there are some wickets there are no wicket which is stump. So there are chances that the balls which are wickets also will not be stumps. Is it true, my dear student? Yes or no? Is it true, my dear student? Yes or no? Yes, that is very true, that some of the balls which are wicket shall not be stumps, because if they are wickets, they cannot be stumps. And at the same point of time, the balls are containing the bats. The balls are containing the bats. And what is the statement? It is saying that all bats are balls. Some bats are not stumps. Now the question is, some bats are not stumps. There is a direct inference that we can take from this particular point, that some bats which are balls, because all bats are balls, meaning with some bats which are balls, which are wickets also, are not stumps. Therefore, conclusion 2 only shall follow, which means only conclusion 2 is correct, which means that some bats are not stumps that can be considered, some stumps are not bats cannot be considered. My dear students, अब यहाँ पे आपको जो समझने का बहुत ज्यादा जरूरी है वो ये जरूरी है कि जब हमने फर्स्ट कंक्लूजन लिया, फर्स्ट कंक्लूजन में हमने देखा कि द स्टेटमेंट स्टार्ट्स विद द प्रेडिकेट. जो प्रेडिकेट होता है वो स्टेटमेंट होता है, जो वो ऑब्जेक्ट होता है जो सर्कल के थ्रू रिप्रेजेंट हो रहा होता है, बट उसका कहीं ना कहीं से रिलेशन होना चाहिए जो पहले के 2 स्टेटमेंट्स थे उनमें से किसी से. बट यहाँ पे विकेट का बॉल्स के साथ कोई स्टेटमेंट कहीं शोकेस करा ही नहीं गया, तो हम लोग लॉजिकली इन्फर भी नहीं कर सकते कि क्या स्टंप बॉल्स हो सकते हैं या स्टंप विकेट हो सकते हैं. ऑन द कॉन्ट्रेरी, व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट सम bats are not stumps. Some bats are not stumps. Why we can confer it? Because there are some balls which could have been bats. Some balls which would have been bats and which are wickets. Okay, so ball के अंदर कुछ तो पोर्शन ऐसा है जो कि विकेट है, और विकेट क्योंकि स्टंप्स के साथ कोई रिलेशन नहीं रख रहा, there is no relation between wicket and stumps. What we can infer is that there is a certain area of bats which is contained in the ball, which are wickets, which is not at all related to stumps. So some bats are not stumps. This is something that we can conclude, not the first conclusion. Therefore, answer of question number 40 will be answer B. Now, moving forward, let's try to figure out this particular question. Some drums are flutes, all flutes are guitars, and no guitar is a piano. Some drums are flutes, all flutes are guitar, and no guitar is a piano. Now let's try to figure out that what will be the correct answer. Some drums are flutes. Now some drums are flutes. Correct representation. This is drums and this is flutes. So drums and flutes are related to each other by this particular Venn diagram. Now, again, all flutes are guitar. Now, if we closely look at this particular picture, what we can see is that there are certain areas of flutes which is outside the ambit of guitar, meaning which this is not the correct Venn representation of the diagram. So what we can conclude is that there are certain areas which should be inside the flute, the circle which is representing flutes. It should be inside the circle of guitar. Then only we can say that all flutes are guitars. Now, no guitar is a piano. So no guitar is a piano. This is the correct representation of the Venn diagram. So some drums are flutes. That is correct. All flutes are guitars. That is also correct. Now, we will have to figure out that no guitar is a piano. That is also there. Now we will have to figure out that whether these conclusion 1 and conclusion 2 follows or not. Some drums are not pianos. Some drums are not pianos, my dear students. Some drums are not pianos. Obviously, those drums which are related to flutes and which are contained within guitars. Obviously, since guitar has no relation between pianos, then there are some drums also which are flutes and which are inside guitars, which have no relation with piano. That statement means that some drums are not piano and some flutes are not pianos. Some flutes are not pianos. Some flutes are not pianos. Obviously, if all flutes are not pianos, then some flutes are also not pianos. Therefore, this statement is also correct. This statement is also correct, my dear student. The answer for this particular question will be answer C. I suppose it was very easy for you people to understand that why is it so that this particular question, the answer was answer C. Reason being that all the flutes are contained within guitars, and if you're saying that some of the flutes does not have any relation with piano, so since all the flutes are contained within guitar and no guitar is a piano, therefore some of the flutes obviously will also not be pianos, and in the same manner some drums which have relation with flutes and which are contained within the guitar circle through the Venn diagram representation are also not pianos. Therefore, what we can infer is that both conclusion 1 and conclusion 2 follows, and therefore the answer for this question would be answer C. Both conclusion 1 and conclusion 2 follows. My dear students, I suppose you're able to understand that why is it so that the answers are coming a little bit different from the above, from the previous videos that we have seen, or videos lecture series where which the answer was quite similar. Now, since we are changing the subject and the predicate, please understand my dear students, ये समझना भी बहुत जरूरी है कि सब्जेक्ट और प्रेडिकेट को चेंज करके जो कंक्लूजन का जो इन्फेरेंस है वो एंटायरली चेंज हो जाता है. इसलिए हमारे को बहुत इंश्योर करना है कि जो हम स्टेटमेंट्स के वेन डायग्राम भी ड्रॉ कर रहे हैं, it should be according to the statement's chronology that has been provided. That has to be drawn in such a manner that the chronology should also match, ताकि सब्जेक्ट और प्रेडिकेट में कहीं प्रॉब्लम ना आए आप लोग. all roses are flowers का वेन डायग्राम कुछ अलग होगा एंड ऑल फ्लावर्स आर रोजेस का वेन डायग्राम कुछ अलग होगा. And all roses are flowers is not equivalent to all flowers are roses. तो जैसे हमने सब्जेक्ट और प्रेडिकेट को चेंज कर दिया तो उसका जो इन्फेरेंस है, जो उसका कंक्लूजन है, वो भी बदल गया. That is why it is very important to ensure that the subject and the predicate are not being interchanged, and then the same manner the conclusion also has to be understood. You cannot draw a conclusion from a predicate to the subject. Rather, it is always the subject through which you have to derive the conclusion towards the predicate. अगर लास्ट में जो वर्ड लिखा हुआ है अगर वो पहले आ जाए तो आप ये समझ लीजिए कि आप प्रेडिकेट के बेसिस पे यू आर ट्राइंग टू डिराइव अ कंक्लूजन which cannot be made possible because you don't have enough evidence to prove that point. For example, in this particular statement, although conclusion में कहीं से भी black से start नहीं हो रहा, लेकिन अगर ये statement start ही black से हो रहा होता जो कि एक predicate है, तो इसका मतलब क्या होता कि वो जो कंक्लूजन है उसको आप सॉल्व करने के चेष्टा भी करते, प्रयास भी करते, तो you would have not been able to derive the correct answer because that is something which is a predicate and you cannot come to the conclusion that this particular predicate has some relation with the subject. That's why it is very important to understand where the predicate is lying, where the subject is lying, what is the word that has been prefixed before the subject, and what is the word that has been prefixed before the predicate. Through this understanding only, you will be able to understand that what is the correct logical explanation for the conclusion that has been followed. Now again, question number 42 right now in front of you, my dear students. Please try to solve this question. All roses are flowers. Some flowers are white. No white is black. Very easy, very simple diagram. Let's try to figure out what can be the correct diagram. All roses are flowers. Again, this is not the correct representation of flowers and roses. All roses are flowers. Circle, which is showing roses, and then flowers, which should be encompassing the whole roses, because all roses are flowers, meaning which the whole circle of roses should be contained entirely within the set of flowers as mentioned. Some flowers are white. Some flowers are white. Some flowers are white, meaning which there should be some overlapping between the circle which is representing flowers and the white. This is white. And then no white is black. There should be a clear difference between the circle that is representing black and the circle which is representing white. So flowers, roses, white and black. This is the correct logical Venn diagram for the statement that has been provided under question number 42. Now let's try to figure out that what exactly is the statement that is being conveyed. The first conclusion says some roses are not black. Some roses are not black. Obviously, since there is an entirely flower in which the roses are being contained, and there is a relation between flowers and white which there we can see an intersection, and then roses are nowhere related with black because it is entirely contained within the circle black. So some roses are not black. Obviously that can be inferred. So this particular statement is correct. All flowers being white is a possibility. All flowers being white is a possibility. Can we come to this particular conclusion, my dear student? All flowers being white is a possibility. This statement is saying some flowers are white. So can we conclude from this statement that some flowers are white? That means that all flowers can also be white. The statement in itself clearly showcases that if there is a statement which it has been clearly mentioned that some flowers are white, since the statement itself is saying that some flowers are white, all flowers being white is a possibility. Yes, there are chances that all the flowers being white is a possibility because according to the Venn diagram, there is an intersection between flowers and white. And when this particular statement is saying some flowers are white, it is also inferring that some flowers are not white. So if some flowers are white, we can infer that some flowers are not white, meaning which this statement which is saying that all flowers being white is a possibility, we cannot take this thing into consideration. We cannot accept this point because some flowers are white. It can obviously be contained as some flowers are not white. Therefore, the correct answer for this particular question will be only option 1, and the answer will be only option A, not option B, because all flowers being white is a possibility, is something which we cannot confer, which we cannot say, because there is a statement that has already been provided that only some flowers are white. Some flowers are white. So taking that thing into as all flowers are white is a contradiction which we cannot take into consideration. Therefore, all flowers being white is not a possibility. Only option A follows, and that is the correct answer for the same. Now, question number 43, that is in front of you. Yeah, right now in front of you, my dear students. Please try to solve the question. Question number 43 says that some leaves are green, some leaves are green, all greens are colors, no colors is a flower. Some leaves are green, all greens are colors, and no color is a flower. These are the three statements. Kindly try to draw the Venn diagram. The 10 seconds starts now. So my dear students, I suppose you have already drawn the Venn diagram. Let's try to figure out how the Venn diagram would look like. The Venn diagram will, for the first statement, obviously is fine. Some leaves are green. This is a circle which is going to represent leaves. This is a circle this is going to represent green. And there will be some overlap between leaves and green. And then all greens are colors. So all greens are colors. Very true, because all greens are colors and no color is a flower. There is no relation between color and flower. Now, let's try to figure out that some flowers are not greens. Some flowers are not greens. Some flowers are not greens. Some flowers, again, the predicate is being put first, and then the statement is being put forward, as we already discussed, that if the flower, that is the predicate, has been put in the conclusion, the very first point of time, we shall not take that into consideration, because we cannot figure out, because there is no direct relation. जहां पे आपने देखा कि ये predicate है, इस predicate से ही conclusion start हो रहा है, and वो last predicate है, you by yourself will neglect that particular point, because there is no direct inference that you can take into consideration. And some leaves are not flowers, some leaves are not flowers, some leaves are not flowers, some leaves that are contained in green, and all those colors, when you're talking about green, which are leaves and they are not flowers. Therefore, the second statement is correct. We cannot take first statement because it is starting with the word predicate, and obviously predicate cannot be taken as a conclusion until unless there is a logical inference following from them. The correct answer for this question will be answer B. Answer B, only conclusion 2 follows. Very important students, ये आप लोगों को ना याद रखना, it is very important for you to remember कि जो statements होते हैं ना, इसमें जो subject और predicate होता है, इनका ना बहुत important portion है. They play a very vital role in figuring out the conclusion. अभी लास्ट में आपका वर्ड आया, देखिए इसमें फ्लावर. स्टेटमेंट नंबर 1 में कहीं फ्लावर का मेंशन नहीं था, स्टेटमेंट नंबर 2 में कहीं फ्लावर का मेंशन नहीं था, स्टेटमेंट नंबर 3 में फ्लावर का मेंशन नहीं था. तो फ्लावर एक सेपरेट आइडेंटिटी, एक सेपरेट सर्कल का रिप्रेजेंटेशन कर रहा है, जहां पे उसका किसी से भी कोई रिलेशन नहीं है. अब ये जो स्टेटमेंट कह रहा है सम फ्लावर्स आर नॉट ग्रीन्स, सम फ्लावर्स आर नॉट ग्रीन्स, ये हम लोग कैसे पता लगा सकते हैं जब तक उन्होंने कहीं भी ये बात मेंशन ही नहीं करी है. उन्होंने मेंशन करी है कि कलर और फ्लावर एक दूसरे रिलेटेड नहीं है, पर क्या उन्होंने ये कहीं मेंशन करा है कि सम ग्रीन्स. ओके, यहां पे इन्होंने क्या बात करी है, सम फ्लावर्स आर नॉट ग्रीन्स, सम फ्लावर्स आर नॉट ग्रीन. अब इन्होंने क्या बात बोली है कि नो कलर इज अ फ्लावर, नो कलर इज अ फ्लावर. और यहां पे बोल रहे हैं ऑल ग्रीन्स आर कलर, ऑल ग्रीन्स आर कलर, ऑल ग्रीन्स आर कलर. और उसके बाद ये आपको स्टेटमेंट दे रहे हैं कि सम फ्लावर्स आर नॉट ग्रीन, सम फ्लावर्स आर नॉट ग्रीन. बट यहां पे क्या आप रिलेशन देख पा रहे हैं फ्लावर्स का और ग्रीन का? नहीं, हम रिलेशन देख पा रहे हैं कलर्स का और फ्लावर्स का. और यहां पे बोला गया है ऑल ग्रीन्स आर कलर्स, ऑल ग्रीन्स आर कलर्स. तो what you can assume from this particular question is that जब पूरा का पूरा सर्कल कंटेन्ड ही है कलर्स के अंदर, और कलर्स और फ्लावर्स के बीच में कोई रिलेशन ही नहीं है, तो ग्रीन का भी कोई फ्लावर्स का रिलेशन होगा? बिल्कुल नहीं, रिलेशन नहीं होगा. देयर विल बी नो रिलेशन. सो if we are saying some flowers are not green, since the predicate in by itself has been put in first, and here with the statement would have been all flowers are not greens, then the statement would have been correct. Therefore, the answer for this question should have been not B, but rather it should be C. Both the statements are concluding from this particular statement, and therefore the answer for this question, the correct answer for this question would be answer C, not B. I hope you have understood that why is it so that the answer for this question is B, not A, or not C, not B. The reason being that if after taking this particular thing into inference, all greens are colors. All greens are colors. ये देखिए green के अंदर है ना पूरा color. All green are color and no color is flower. No color is flower. There is no relation between colors and flowers. And at the same point of time, it is saying that some flowers are not green. Some flowers are not green. जब आपका जो some flowers हैं, they are not green. We cannot obviously understand because all greens are colors. और colors, no color is flower. मतलब कि जो color के अंदर जो भी चीजें होंगी वो किसी भी तरीके से फ्लावर से रिलेटेड नहीं होंगी. और यहाँ पे जो स्टेटमेंट है वो कह रहा है some flowers are not green. तो जब कोई भी फ्लावर ग्रीन नहीं होगा, all flowers are not green. So therefore, this particular statement is also correct. Some flowers are not green is also correct, and some leaves are not flowers. Some leaves which are contained within the color and which are having no relation with this particular point. Therefore, that statement is also correct. Therefore, both statement B and C is A and B, conclusion 1 and 2 is correct. The answer for this question would not be answer B, but rather answer C. I suppose you have understood that why is it so that the answer for this particular question is answer C, not answer B. Understood, my dear students? Now, let's move to the last question for today and let's try to figure out that whether the statement that has been provided has the conclusion followed or not. All pencils are, again, we have pen and pencils and sharpeners and erasers. Now, please draw the Venn diagram and let's try to figure out what will be the correct answer for this question. 10 seconds from now, your time starts now. All pens are pencils. Some pencils are sharpeners. No sharpener is eraser. Need to draw the Venn diagram according to the statement that has been provided. I suppose you have already drawn the Venn diagram, my dear students. Now let's figure out. All pens are pencils. All pens are pencils. Not the correct method of drawing the Venn diagram. All pens, then the pencils. This is pencils. Some pencils are sharpener. There should be an overlap between pencils and sharpener. And no sharpener is eraser. There is a clear difference between sharpener and eraser. Here you need to understand the subject for the third statement is sharpener and the predicate is eraser. Now, based on the statement, let's figure out that some pencils are not erasers. Some pencils are not erasers. Some pencils which have common overlap between sharpeners obviously will not be erasers. First statement is correct. Some sharpeners are not erasers. Some sharpeners are not erasers. Since all the no sharpener is an eraser, so therefore some sharpeners are also not eraser. Both the statement 2, 1 and 2, the conclusion 1 and 2 follows. Conclusion answer for this particular question number 44 will be option C. Very easy question, I suppose. It was an easier question on for to solve rather than comparison to question 43 and 42 because there was a complications in regards to the subject predicate. Here the subject has been mentioned first and then the conclusion also the subject has been mentioned first. So it was an easier take for all the students and also for making you people understand that why is it so that the subject and the predicate also has to be kept in mind whenever we are solving the syllogism. I suppose this was a interesting lecture so far, and you have taken a lot of insights in regards to where do we have to keep the subject and where do we have to keep the predicate. Because if the subjects and predicates are interchanged, तो जो answer, जो conclusion आपको मिलेगा shall not be the correct conclusion that we have to figure out. Okay, my dear students, I hope आप लोगों को इस लेक्चर से अच्छी इंसाइट्स मिली होंगी. एक इम्पॉर्टेंट पॉइंट हम लोगों ने डिस्कस करा सब्जेक्ट और प्रेडिकेट का. इन द सेम मैनर वी विल बी डिस्कसिंग the last set of questions in our upcoming videos, And after that, we will quickly have a revision of all the things that we have studied so far in our syllogism portion, the theoretical portion that is important, and obviously the tips that has to be kept into mind whenever we are solving these questions, so that once you have completed this lecture series, you can be 100% confident that yes, I have completed the whole lecture series, and whatsoever questions will be put up in front of me related to syllogism, you will be definitely be able to solve those questions, my dear students. ओके, तो आज के लिए इतना ही. नेक्स्ट लेक्चर सीरीज में हम आपसे मुलाकात करते हैं, और तब तक के लिए आई विश यू ऑल द वेरी बेस्ट ऑफ लक, एंड लेट्स मीट इन द नेक्स्ट वीडियो, माय डियर स्टूडेंट्स. बाय बाय, टेक केयर.